Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of the Hollywood Experience, where action is reaction and reaction is all action. Anyway, let's get on to this week's guest, because I've got a great one this week. Somebody I've known for, I couldn't believe it, 20 years now. Because the first time we met was back in 2001 when I did a film for him called Moscow Heat. His name's Alexander Nevsky. Those of you that have been following me would know who he is. Really nice man, very generous in his compliments, in his being. I think that's all, due to his mom, who he loves very much. I know very, very much. So he joined me on the show because we talked about all the action stuff that he's done and produced.
What was the movie that you were in with him?
Moscow Heat.
And what was the role that you took on in that movie?
I actually played Michael York's son.
Oh, wow.
Not that we actually looked like each other. I was, I die quick. I tend to die in everything I do. I don't know what it actually says that to me.
It makes up for all the dying you didn't do in Highlander.
Yeah, but no, I did die, but I just came back.
Well, yeah, exactly. They gave you who knows how many chances in that.
Well, let's listen to what he had to say, because I had a lot of fun with Alexander, both on and off screen. So without further ado, Alexander Nevsky, this is for you. See, I was a poet too.
Okay, so this week I've got Alexander Nevsky, who we met. Alexander, hi, welcome. How are you? We met.
Good.
Who was it?
It was 2003 when you came to Russia to Moscow Heat. 2003, right. Summer of 2003, 17 years ago. Actually, August of 2003.
How long? No, was it that
17 long? 17 years. Yep.
Oh my gosh. I thought I was only 27 years old. No, I've just lost a few years. My gosh, 17 years ago. Well, we got a lot to talk about, I suppose. I've been to Russia with you a few times since.
Yes.
Moscow Heat was an action piece, and I'd say an action piece to a degree. We had a couple of interesting little things in it. But the last one we did was, 2 years ago?
Last one was Wild League. But before that, you went to Russia to do Black Rose. It was in 2013. You did Black Rose. And in 2018, you did Wild League. The problem is you died in every movie. But hopefully in the next one, you'll be alive, hopefully.
I'm dying in all of them. It seems to be the story of my career. Even during Highlander, I was always dying. I just got brought back to life. It's just
exactly. Yeah.
So tell me, what have you been doing? I want to find out what you've been doing. I know this pandemic has kind of shut down a lot of people, and I know you're producing and an actor, as a producer as well. What have you been doing in the past 6 months? I know everything's slowed down, but I know you've actually gotten onto a couple of things.
Before I answer that, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to your show. And, all your listeners should know that I'm your biggest Russian fan. I was your biggest Russian fan in the 90s when I watched Highlander with millions of others over there in Russia and all over the world. I was your fan when we were doing Moscow Heat in 2003. I was your fan in 2015. I'm still your biggest Russian fan. And thank you very much for all the inspiration, Adrian, because you're having a great career. You have a great family. You're a great guy. And you know the secret because you never change. You're Highlander. You're ageless Highlander. So thank you very much for all the inspiration. Really.
Tell my bones that, brother.
Exactly. And all my family, we're all your fans. And all Russia. And I think so many people were inspired by you. And to be honest with you, in the 90s, when I started my career, for me, it was very important to understand that, for example, you not just acted in Highlander, you also produced, you also directed. So you did a lot of things. And it was a great example that you can combine. You can combine several things, not just acting, but also producing. So basically, fast forward to pandemic 20 years later. What's going on right now? I mean, it was, for me, it was kind of a hard couple of years even before the pandemic, because I did several movies one after another and I pushed them into the American release. So all your listeners can watch Black Rose, for example, on Netflix. They can watch my last two, Showdown in Manila and Maximum Impact, on Amazon Prime Video. And actually another one, Treasure Raiders, they also can watch on Amazon Prime Video. and you probably forgot. But you were the first choice for Treasure Raiders also. We even met. It was 2005. We even met for lunch in Westwood. I lived in Westwood at the time. But you were doing Highlander the movie. You were doing The Source. Highlander the Source.
Right.
At the time, so you couldn't be in that film. And right now, right before the pandemic, I joined my friend Eric Brenner, who is a great producer. He produced Crazy Hearts, for which Jeff Bridges got an Oscar. He produced Kidnapping of Mr. Hannigan with Anthony Hopkins, and also he produced a lot of action movies. And one of the action movies I joined him to was In Dreams. It's a new film. It's starring Bianca Van Damme, daughter of JCVD, and she's great in the film. And actually, Jean-Claude Van Damme was one of the first ones who I met when I came to LA, when I moved to LA actually in 2000. And he was always generous and great with me. He even invited me to one of his films, which Sheldon Leitich directed in 2001, The Order, with Jean-Claude and Charlton Heston. Avi Lerner was producing. I couldn't do it because I was already at UCLA and I couldn't leave United States, and they were shooting in Israel, so I couldn't do that film. But I remember that he was very nice with me. And actually, Sheldon Leitich, remember later, Sheldon was exec producer of Black Rose, and also went to Moscow when you were there when we were doing Black Rose, my film Black Rose.
That's right.
So for me, it was an honor to support Bianca. And I joined In Dreams as an executive producer. And the film was already shot. The film was shot completely, and now it's on final stage of post-production. And hopefully it will be released before the end of the year. It's one of the projects. Another project called Red Prophecies. That's a thriller. That's a political thriller, which also was shot before the pandemic with a lot of great actors, with Eric Roberts and Odette Fair and Michael Madsen and Stephen Baldwin. And Casper Van Dien, my friend Casper Van Dien, great guy who we did Showdown. You know Casper, yes. Great guy from Starship Troopers, and we already worked with him on Showdown in Manila. Casper's a great guy. And we just shot some additional scenes this week here in Los Angeles. I mean, with all the social distancing and all that procedure. And that film is hopefully also will be released on Netflix or Amazon Prime here in America before the end of the year. So believe it or not, pandemic didn't break me, and I'm here in Beverly Hills, and I'm training in my home because all the gyms closed, but I was lucky, and I bought about like 300 pounds of dumbbells and barbells right before the pandemic, and I have one of the rooms in my place now dedicated completely to like a gym. So I'm good. How are you doing?
So tell me, you're one of the people that brought up all the weights, because most of the weights in America, I think, disappeared when the pandemic appeared.
Yes. So I was smart enough. I was one of the first ones. I understood what will happen, So I just bought it. Yes.
It's going to take a time. I mean, you can see in the parks now people working out, in groups and that. I wonder how far the social distancing works. I actually just did one of my events as a social distancing event, as a sword experience event, which was interesting to manage because it's swords, you get kind of close to each other, but so we were able to sort of figure out a different way to make things work, and I think that's the same with anything. You adapt to the situation, which brings me to the next question I wanted to ask you, which is, you've done a bunch of different action stuff in the movies. You talked about Showdown in Manila, which I know that you did a few action pieces there. And in Black Rose, you did a couple of little pieces. So what do you feel? How did you start doing your action stuff? I mean, you've been a bodyguard, you've been a bodybuilder, you've been an actor, you've been what's the difference when you first came on to doing as an actor? How did you start in the action genre?
First of all, it all started with a dream. And I was lucky enough because, when I was a kid, it was still USSR. And I told you that many times. Bodybuilding was illegal in USSR. And martial arts were illegal too. The reason was Arnold and Sly, they killed so many Russians in their films, like Commando or Rambo 2, whatever. It was the reason for the Soviet government to ban that sport completely. But we couldn't even name it bodybuilding
Wow.
kind of like athletic gymnastics or weightlifting or whatever, but we didn't have it. But again, I was lucky because when I was a teenager, Gorbachev came to power and he changed Soviet Union. He changed Russia.